Welcome back to Family Life with Mama Rita. I want to give a shout to Minister and Mrs. Douglas Ishia. Last week, oh my God, we heard their testimony and it was powerful. They celebrated 25 years and they are still within their 25th year. And Minister and Mrs. Ishia, I want to say God bless you. And thank you for coming to Family Life. You did so well. And it awoke my spirit to a topic I've been wanting to do for so long. I'm going to introduce this topic today. Just roll it, and then from next week, we will start talking about it. I don't know, last week we didn't do much of Ask Mama Rita. And then today, either next week, I will continue this topic or we'll combine the two questions that will come out and then do Ask Mama Rita. I want to read the scripture to you and then I'll start the ball rolling. But I hope you had a wonderful week and you had a restful week. I did. Please take good care of yourself. The Bible says in Psalm 127, verse 3, children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from God. Children are a gift from the Lord, and they are a reward. I hope somebody is listening to me. Today I want to talk about the different ways of having children. The Bible says that children are a gift and they are a reward. It didn't talk about the kind of children. It says children are a gift. I hope a couple is listening to me. Children are a gift from the Lord and they are a reward. We want to know the different forms or the different ways of having children and the different kind of children God is actually talking about. We have the natural means of having children where you have children through sex and it comes naturally, you get pregnant, you feel funny, you feel sick. For us in Ghana, you feel you have malaria. You go and check and they tell you it's actually not malaria, it's pregnancy. And as I speak, I see some people going to go through that. You've been wanting to have children for so long and it hasn't happened. But I prophesy to you, you will feel sick, you will feel feverish, you will have temperature, going for a normal checkup thinking it's malaria. That is all the sickness we know in Ghana. And by the time you realize, you'll be told you are pregnant. So different ways of having children. The natural way, artificial insemination. There's also what we call the IVF, the in vitro fertilization. We have the surrogates. We have the adoption. And then we have the stepchildren. And I want you to know that each one of them is a way of having children. None of them is a mistake and none of them is wrong. The Bible says children are a gift from the Lord. What kind of children they are, the Bible doesn't state it. And they are a reward. They are reward to the family. They are reward to the couple. So I want you to know that having children is actually a reward. Having children the natural way is a reward. God can decide to reward you by another means. And you see, I always say that doctors, when it comes to doctors, God has two ways of healing you. God will decide to heal you spiritually, where you pray and God decides to heal you divinely. And God can also decide to heal you through the hospital, through the doctors. Some years ago, I had what you call the gallstones. I would always wake up and then feel a pain in my tummy. And it was always worse in the evenings. And the pain would be such that I won't be able to sit down, I won't be able to lie down, it was unbearable, excruciating pain. And the day I eat oily food or I eat vegetables, it was even worse. So I did my own research, and then I knew there was something called gallstones. So I went to the hospital, told the doctor, I have gallstones. The doctor said, how did you know? You know, it's not gallstones. I said, doctor, I know the way I feel, and I have read about it, and I think it is it. The first thing they made me do was endoscopy. Endoscopy, is a thing I would never want to do again. They put a tube, and with the tube there's a light. There's a light at the end of the tube, and they run it through your throat into your stomach to see exactly what is wrong. So that was the first thing I did. When I did it, they didn't see anything. The doctor said, I told you it wasn't gallstones. I said, doctor, I have done my research and I know that is what I'm going through. So the next thing I did was a scan, and the scan showed it that I had gallstones. What I did was go through a period of fasting and prayer. I wanted God to heal me naturally or heal me spiritually. So I prayed and prayed and prayed and said, God, do this for me. I don't want to go through surgery. I want to wake up and the stones are out of my system. The more I prayed, the more I felt the pain. And every month I would go to do another scan. And every time I went to do a scan, the stones were there and they were increasing and they were getting bigger. So I think I waited for about 3-4 months, and God didn't hear me. That is what I thought at the time. So I was expecting a divine way of doing it, a divine healing, something. I actually prayed and prayed and prayed. So by the 4th week, I knew that I needed to go and do the surgery. Did God hear me? Yes, God heard me. But God's answer for me was not divinely. God's answer for me was that I needed to see the doctors for they to perform the miracle that I so desired. I got myself ready, went through the doctor's knife. It was removed. My gallstone, my gallbladder was removed. And ever since, I've been fine. My darling, yes, everybody wants a miracle. Natural way of doing things. Who doesn't want it? But God has different ways of answering you. And if God decides that yours will not be the natural way, it will be something else, you need to understand and accept the faith that God has for you. So there's the natural way of having children where you get married. Like me, I wanted to enjoy my marriage a bit, and I'm sure within honeymoon, I got pregnant. I'm sure the same week I got pregnant. We were coming from the typical scripture union background. So people thought, oh, she can't be pregnant and have a baby so soon. So they started counting. I had my wedding in September. So they counted September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. So when they count and they realize that I actually had my baby after 9 months, then they knew that I was actually holy. In those days, we had people who were checking. If I had gone through premature delivery, I don't know what would have happened. But anyway, this is what God did for me when I got married. But it is not everybody that goes through it. Some people go through infertility. Infertility. When we talk about infertility, infertility is defined as the inability to get pregnant the traditional way. Infertility is simply defined as the inability to get pregnant the traditional way. In other words, intercourse isn't producing a healthy baby. So for some people, they have fertility where they are producing without invitation. Babies are coming without invitation. Both my third and my fourth, I think all my children, I didn't plan it. My firstborn, I didn't plan for it. I wanted to enjoy a bit and get to know my husband more. And by the time I realized, oh, I was pregnant. After the first one, now Pastor Naka, I was hoping to settle down and get a good job and blah, blah, blah. Then I can get pregnant. Oh, before I said, hey, Jack, I was pregnant with Pastor Papa. When I was going for interview with the bank, I prayed. I said, God, don't let them see that I was pregnant. And those days, the rule of the bank, you need to work for a year before you can be pregnant, not before you can have a child, before you can be pregnant. Here was I. By the time I was in the bank, I mean, first year in the bank or first few months in the bank, I was already pregnant with him. But God was on my side. I wasn't sacked. So we are talking about the different ways of having children. Natural, and then the infertility where you would either have to go through some kind of medical attention to have children. So we have the artificial insemination, we have the IVF, in vitro fertilization, we have the surrogates, we have the adoption, and then the last one a lot of women do not want to accept is the stepchildren. My darling, stepchildren is actually in the Bible. You asking me where did I find it? Come to think about it, was Joseph the real father of Jesus? These are things we don't talk about. We say Joseph was a foster father. What is a foster father? Who is a foster father? Joseph was not the one who impregnated Mary. So if we want to look at it in real terms, Joseph was actually a stepchild. Jesus was a stepchild. Yet Joseph took him as his own child, saw him. And today, when we are reading the genealogy of Jesus Christ, my darling, we don't even mention Mary. When we are talking about the genealogy of Jesus Christ, it starts from Joseph, who was the stepfather of Jesus. So, my darling, you are getting married. The man has a child already. Take that child as your own. You are getting married. The woman has a child already. Take the child as your own. Children are a gift from the Lord. It doesn't matter what kind of child it is. It's a gift from the Lord. Yes, you are saying, Mama Rita, It didn't happen before I got married. In the case of Jesus, Mary was pregnant with Jesus before the marriage. So if the man has a child before the marriage, I will accept. But not when it is within the marriage, my darling. Children are a gift from the Lord. If for any reason there was a mistake, I want you to know that there was a mistake in the action, but the result is not a mistake. The child coming out is not a mistake. Go for that child of your husband. Go for him or her, because that child is a reward from God. You may never know the future of that child. You may never know who he will be tomorrow. And I've said it in this show before, that former president of America, Bill Clinton, the Clinton was actually the name of his stepfather. He brought honor to his stepfather. And I see a child bringing honor to you. We have people in the Bible who went through infertility. Some way, somehow, God came through for them. There were so many women. Hannah went through a period of infertility. Elizabeth went through a period of infertility. Sarah went through a period of infertility. Rahel went through a period of infertility. And Rebecca went through a period of infertility. I believe that they were praying and God answered them. If you are going through a period of infertility, my darling, don't give up. Last week, Lady Deacon Lydia mentioned that she got married, she got pregnant the first year, she had a dream, and she lost that pregnancy. It took 3 years. The altar of Royal House Chapel, the altar of Apostle General, spoke for them, and they had children. And she advised that if you are going through a period of infertility, don't give up. Don't be excessively anxious. Don't be angry at everybody and angry at everything. Continue to pray, continue to be good, and God will bring you kindness. In the case of Hannah, God brought Samuel, and the rest is history. After Samuel, God gave other children. Elizabeth, God gave her a child later. Sarah, God gave her a child. Rahel, God gave her a child, was trying to have a second one, lied, sold the father's gods, and died out of it. And Rebecca also went through infertility. We will go through the forms of different ways of having children. And I want to look first at the artificial insemination. So I'll be going through the definitions of the different forms of having children. I have already spoken about the natural way of having babies. The natural way is having sex, and then by the time you realize you are pregnant. But we'll be looking at the artificial insemination. We'll be looking at the IVF. We will look at surrogate children. We will look at adoption. And I'm sure by now you already know about the stepchildren. The stepchildren is when the woman has a child with another man, or the man has a child with another woman. We accept it if the stepchildren are already there. But within the marriage, when the stepchildren come, we fail to accept it. But I admonish you today that nobody knows the future of any king. If we knew that they were going to be kings, in other words, We knew they were going to be great people. Trust me, everybody around them would accept it or would have accepted them. So I admonish you that if the man already has a child or within the marriage has a child, please, by the message of God, go for that child. If the woman have a child before you married her, love you, love your dog. If I love you, I love everything around you. Go for that child of your wife. Treat her or treat him, treat that child like your own. And tomorrow, you will receive the benefits of it. We will go for a short commercial break and we'll be back with the definitions of the names I have mentioned, the different ways of having children.
Royal House Chapel presents Easter Celebration 2022 with the Apostle General Sam Crunchy Ankra. Theme: He nailed it to the cross, Colossians 2:14. Join us in this celebration on the following dates: Palm Sunday, Sunday 10th April at 8 a.m. Good Friday, morning service at 8 a.m. and a power-packed all night at 9 p.m. with water and salt feet washing. Resurrection Sunday, joint morning service at 8 a.m. and a communion impartation and anointing service at 5:30 p.m. The venue is the Oil Dome, Obechebilamte Interchange. It is Easter Celebrations 2022. The services will also be live on Facebook at Sam Crunchy Ankra, YouTube at Powerline TV and Powerline Television.
Welcome back from the short break. Today, if you just joined us, we are looking at the different ways of having children, And we looked at the natural way, and then we looked at other ways. Now, the natural way where you have sex and then the pregnancy comes. And then we are also looking at infertility. And I'm defining infertility. Infertility is defined as the inability to get pregnant the traditional way. In other words, it is intercourse that is not producing healthy children, or intercourse not producing children at all. When we talk about infertility, infertility can be as a result of problems with the productive systems of either partners. I want you to listen. A lot of times we blame infertility on the women. But I want in-laws, parents, and concerned citizens to know that infertility can be from both parties, can be from the wife, can be from the husband. So let's stop blaming the women all the time. So infertility can be the result of problems with the productive system of either partners. Medical issues can prevent them from being able to conceive. Now listen carefully. When we talk about infertility, I want to come again. Infertility can be both from the man and the woman. Recently, I had a shock of my life. Shock. I had never heard it before. So a couple came to me and they've been wanting to have their children in the past 5 years. So the lady decided, let me go and see the doctor. And all this while, family members had blamed the woman for not having children. And anytime they see the woman, we want our grandchildren. You've been around too long. What is happening to you? Why are you not having children? I don't know what happens in other places, other countries, and other cultures. But in Ghana, oh my God. Now, because of church, things are even changing a bit, but it's still there. So the lady decided to go to the hospital. After several checkups, the doctor said, you don't have a problem. Your reproductive system is okay. You are producing eggs and you are capable of having children. So bring your husband. And all I have known was low sperm count. But after checking the man, I had this shocker I've never heard before. Apparently, the man was not producing sperms at all. At all. And he wasn't capable of producing sperms. I mean, it doesn't matter the medication he's given. According to the doctors, he can't produce sperms. I said, wow, that's the first time I ever heard this. So when they came to me, I mean, I was a bit inquisitive. I said, but are you able to have sex? He said, Mommy, I have sex, ma'am. I enjoy it. My wife enjoys it. And I didn't know that what was actually coming out of me was not sperms. So I said, so what did the doctor say? What did they say? Is it water? What is it? They said it's not sperms. So I said, there's something happened when you were growing up. He said, oh, when he was 3 years old, he remembers, or his grandmother told him that he had an issue and he was taken to the hospital and a surgery was conducted. But nobody ever told him that he will never be able to produce sperms in his life. I mean, nobody ever said it, you know. So he assumed that everything was okay. So he heard it for the first time when he went with his wife to the hospital. My darling, so are you saying that this couple can never have children? It's a big no. They can have children. They can have children. Children are a gift from the Lord, and they are a reward from God. So infertility, there are different forms or different ways by which people get infertile. And for men, well, the first one was the surgery he went through when he was 3 years old. But these days, it's been discovered that the kind of undies the men wear a lot of nylon underwears. And because of that, I hear their sperms are affected. Either they get low sperm count or they don't produce sperms at all. So now the doctors are advising that our young men should wear cotton panties. So if you're a mother, I want to advise you that when you are buying undies for your sons, please don't buy nylon undies. Buy the cotton ones. Or you can just buy, these days, a lot of the young guys are wearing boxer shorts and they are very comfortable with it. So the kind of undies we wear produce a lot of infertility. And then the kind of room we sleep in, I hear a lot of heat is also producing infertility. So as much as you can, when you sleep, keep your windows open. And then, well, it depends on your neighborhood and the kind of windows. And then you can also have fan in your room where, you know, there's a lot of circulation happening so that there will be no infertility. And then for the women, please, 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 I want the young ladies to listen to me carefully. A lot of these young ladies are buying things. They sit in the public transport and they are told that this medication that can cure 1,002, diseases will make them tight, will make them solid out there. They buy it, they use it for years. What they actually do not know, that it will make them infertile. So all the doches we do, whether doches or douches or whatever it is, before you use them, ask for medical advice. The things we use to wash there, the things we use to insert our private parts, my darling, before you use it, talk to a gynecologist, go to a gynae hospital or a gynae clinic and ask, is this okay to use before you start using it? A lot of people started using these things when they were in their teens and they were in their 20s, and they didn't know it would affect them one day. My darling, it's bringing a lot of infertility. It's even advised now that you don't use soap to wash your private parts. You can just use water. If you want to use a feminine wash, make sure that the feminine wash doesn't enter inside. Just use it on the surface and you will be okay. If you want to know how to get tight, please come to me. I will show you how to be tight and always feel like a virgin. Instead of inserting things you buy on the market, it's given a lot of infertility. But I want you to know that infertility can be cured. Medications. These days, people even advise, doctors advise, that before you even marry or before you decide to have children, go to the hospital, go and see a gynecologist, and then let them check. And in checking, they will know if you have an issue, so it can be corrected before you get married. Now let's look at the different ways of having babies. So number one is the IVF, in vitro fertilization. IVF involves combining the eggs and the sperms outside the body of the woman, and this is actually done in the laboratory. And once it is formed, an embryo is formed. What actually happens is that if the couple opts for IVF, they either take the eggs of the woman and the sperm of the man. I want you to listen carefully. IVF is taking eggs from a woman and fertilizing them with a man's sperm, and then returning the resulting embryo to the uterus of the woman. So it can be the eggs of the woman or the sperms of the husband. It is taken, the eggs of the woman is taken, the sperm of the man is taken, and it's fertilized in the laboratory. And then after a few days, with medications, it is put into the womb of the woman. On the other hand, there can also be either donor eggs or donor sperms. So if the man is not producing enough of sperms, is not producing sperms at all, or is not producing enough of sperms, what is done is a donor sperm is given. You don't need to know who is donating the sperm. You don't need to know. You go to the hospital, the doctors will give you the donor sperm. and then the donor sperm is taken, the woman's eggs are also taken, it is fertilized in the lab, and then after fertilization, it is put back into the woman's womb. If the woman is also not producing enough of eggs, a donor egg is taken. And just like the man, you don't need to know who the donor is. So the donor egg is taken, it can be fertilized with the sperm of the husband in the laboratory, and then is put back into the woman. And then we also have what we call the artificial insemination. Listen, there's the IVF, and then there's the artificial insemination. When we talk about the artificial insemination, artificial insemination is introducing the semen, that is the sperm, into the uterus of the woman the natural way. In other words, this one doesn't need to be done in the laboratory. So the difference between the IVF and the artificial insemination, with the IVF, the egg is taken, the sperm, the semen is taken, is actually fertilized in the lab and then put into the uterus of the woman. When we talk about the artificial insemination, the sperm is taken. Normally, it could be the sperm of the husband that is worked on and then placed in the woman. It's placed in the uterus of the woman. It doesn't need a lab. So this is the difference between the IVF and then the artificial insemination. So the sperm is placed in the uterus and conception happens normally. So that is with the artificial insemination. Unfortunately, the IVF is not for everyone. I say it's not for everyone because it's a bit expensive. I believe that there's going to be a time when IVF is going to be cheap, but for now, it is not cheap. But with prayer, God can give you the money and you can do the IVF. And now what is also happening is that at age 32, 33, 34, 35, when you are not getting married, but you can produce eggs. In other words, the man is not coming. You will get married. You will get married. As for that one, I believe it. You will get married. Take your time. The man will come. But then, whilst you are waiting for the man to come, you know that now women enter into their menopausal stage early these days. So what women are doing these days is that they are freezing their eggs. You can see a doctor, they will take your eggs and then it's frozen. How the process is done, I don't know. I would invite a doctor along the way to talk to us about how this is done. But the eggs of the woman is taken and is frozen till such a time that you would marry. So at the time that you will marry, if you are not producing more eggs, what is done is that the eggs that was frozen is either put back or it is fertilized in the lab and then put back into you. Or, well, this is not my area. I don't want to advertise my ignorance. So we would actually invite a doctor to talk to us about how the eggs are taken, how the eggs are frozen, and then how the eggs are put back. But I believe that when you are ready, the eggs are put back into you, and then you can still have natural delivery. I am not too sure, but would invite a doctor to talk to us about how these things happen. And I also want to talk to you about the surrogate children. When we talk about surrogate, a surrogate wife or a surrogate mother, it's not a wife, but a surrogate mother, what actually happens is that if the wife is on, number one first, the wife is unable to have children. That is number one. The wife is unable to have children. The wife is unable to carry pregnancy. And these days, it happens where the woman doesn't have what it takes to carry a baby. Medically, she's not fit and all that to carry a full-term baby. Or the mother is unwilling. And the young ladies who are coming these days, oh my God, I don't know what is happening. But some women are just not willing to carry babies. Maybe their lifestyle, they are too busy, work, schedule, and all that doesn't help in carrying babies. So what we do is, there's what we call the surrogate. So in that case, another woman can carry the pregnancy for you. So what actually does is that, number one, it can happen in two ways. Where the egg of the wife is taken, the egg of the wife is taken, the sperm of the husband is taken, is fertilized, and then put into the uterus of a surrogate woman. In other words, a woman that is ready to carry pregnancy for another woman. It happens where the woman's egg, that is the egg of the wife, is taken, the sperm of the man is taken, put together, and then given to a woman who is ready to carry the pregnancy. On the other hand, if the woman, that is the wife, is unable to produce eggs, what happens is that the surrogate woman, eggs are taken, the sperm of the husband is taken, and then put into the womb or the uterus of the woman, and the surrogate woman carries the pregnancy for 9 months. So there are two ways. Number one, the egg of the wife, the sperm of the husband is put together, and then another woman carries it. Or the eggs of the surrogate woman is taken, or the eggs is intact, and then the sperm of the husband is taken and is put in the womb of a surrogate woman. Is this biblical? Yes, I have seen it before in the Bible. First, it happened to Abraham and Sarah, where Sarah couldn't have children. And Sarah had asked Abraham to sleep with her maidservant. And by law at the time, the child that came out, that is Ishmael, was actually the child of Sarah. Unfortunately, after Hagar had the child, Sarah also had the child. And you always know it. When two children from two different mothers come together, there's always a fight. So that is why now, before you go for a surrogate woman, there must be an agreement. There must be something put on paper. Sometimes a lawyer must come in. The surrogate woman, if she wants to charge must be made to charge, payment must be done, things must be done well, so that once the child is born, the surrogate woman can come back and say, I am claiming my child, or this child is mine. So you see, it happened between Abraham and Sarah and Hagar. I also know other surrogate wives and children in the Bible, and that came from Jacob and his two wives. The Bible says that when they first, Jacob married Leah and had 4 children, and Rahel or Rachel, depending on the country you are coming from, realized she wasn't getting children. So what she actually did was to give her maidservant, and in those days it was legally allowed. Your maidservant was your property. So gave the maidservant to the husband Jacob to sleep with. And Naphtali came out. And after Naphtali also came Dan. So Naphtali and Dan were surrogate children. But you see, when the Bible is recording, the Bible mentions Rahel as the mother of these children. And then after a while, Leah also realized she wasn't having children again. I mean, it was a competition between the two sisters. So Leah also realized that she wasn't having children again. I think after the four children wasn't having children again. So also gave her maidservant to Jacob. Hey, in those days the men were enjoying. If the men today were getting that, oh, I can see Chief Ape, hey, they'll be enjoying. In the name of, but you see, Leah also had surrogate children out of her maidservant, and those children are Gad and Asher. So out of Jacob, there were 4 surrogate children. But when the Bible is mentions the children of Leah, Naphtali and Dan becomes children of Leah, and then Rahel also has 2 out of her maidservant, Gad and Asher. So I want you to know that a lot of the things that are happening today are actually biblical. Stepchildren came from the time of Jesus, when Joseph decided to have Jesus as his own biological child. And then the surrogate actually started from the Old Testament. So it is also allowed. And there is also the adoption. Adoption is the process of legally welcoming a child into your family. Adoption is the process of legally welcoming a child into your family. Because some couples cannot have their own children, choose to adopt a baby. And a baby by adoption is legally your child. That is, if you go through the legal way, not, oh, my sister's child, my auntie's child, but somebody you legally adopt and do legal papers, it is your child. You can claim ownership of that child. The mother you adopted from cannot come back 10 years after, 20 years after, and lay claims of that children. So I want you to know that there are so many ways of having children. So whether you get it by natural birth, whether through infertility, whatever it is, they are your own children. Except that we would invite doctors and social workers here to, number 1, come to explain to us, and number 2, to make a plea that they must do it easy. Royal House Chapel have relationships with orphanages where we go, we give them children. and we give them food items. And the children are a lot. Sometimes they don't have the means of feeding the children. Yet, when you decide to go for adoption, it becomes so difficult. I am pleading with government and government agencies who are in charge of adoption on all these things to make it very, very easy for parents now, for couples now, to be able to have these children. And I'm also looking for a time where IVF and artificial insemination will become cheap and easy, and surrogate mothers and surrogate children will be very, very easy. I want you to know that where the world is getting to, especially as Africans, we have to know that these things are normal, and it's about time we accept it in our culture. Children by adoption should be very, very accepted, where that there's no stigmatization when it comes to these things. And we will look at what point, at what age do you tell a child that he or she is actually an adopted child. Guess what I found? There are so many ways of having children. Number one, artificial insemination. So artificial insemination of mother with donor sperm. So the wife, that is the mother, gets a donor sperm. And then there's the artificial insemination. So in other words too, artificial insemination with egg and sperm donor. So number one, the one from the mother, egg from the mother, egg from the wife, and then a donor sperm. And then there's also the artificial insemination where both the egg and the sperm are donors using a surrogate mother. And then there's also the IVF. And I found so many IVFs. Number one, the first IVF, using egg and sperm of the parents. In other words, IVF using the egg of the woman and the sperm of the husband. One IVF. Second IVF, I found out, IVF with intracytoplasmic sperm injection, ICSI. I would invite a doctor to explain to us. And then there's also the IVF with frozen embryos. And then there's also an IVF with pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. PGD. Please forgive me if I'm not pronouncing well, but I would invite a doctor to explain all these things to us. And then there's the IVF with a donor egg. So there's IVF with egg from the mother, egg from the father. There's IVF with donor egg and donor sperm. And there's also IVF with a donor egg and the sperm from the father. And there's also IVF with egg and donor sperm. So the IVFs alone that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 IVFs. So IVFs with sperm donor, IVF with egg and sperm donor. In other words, egg from the mother. And then there's IVF with surrogate using parents' eggs and sperm. So IVF where the parents' sperm and eggs are using, but a surrogate woman carries that. And then there's also IVF with surrogate mother and a donor sperm. In other words, it's not the father, it's not the husband that is donating the sperm. And then there's also the IVF with surrogate and sperm donor. And then there's IVF with surrogate using the egg of the surrogate woman and sperm from the baby's father. And then there's also the IVF with surrogate using egg. And so, my darling, there are so many forms of having. And then there's another one I'm also seeing, nuclear transfer and cloning, CLONING. So there are so many forms of having children. We have the natural way, we have the artificial insemination, we have the different forms of IVFs, we have the surrogate, we have the adoption, and then we have the stepchildren. Over the weeks, we will take them one after the other, invite doctors to come and explain to us and find out the easiest way of having children when you can have children by natural means. Listen to me again. Children are a gift from the Lord. What kind of children? Whether children from the natural, children from artificial insemination, children from the different IVFs, children from the surrogate, children by adoption, and children by step, they are all a gift from the Lord, and they are a reward from God. My darling, if you've been married for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, stop crying, because it is possible to have your own children. I will bring the curtain down. Please let your questions come. Any issue you have about childbearing, I don't know how many weeks we would use talking about this topic, but I want you to know that it is possible for you in 21st century to have your own children. If you can't have natural and you don't have the money to go through IVF, we can go through adoption. We can go through surrogates. Everything is possible today. I wish you well. If God has blessed you with children by natural means, every day when you wake up, you need to thank God that God gave you children. If you didn't have through natural means, but you still had children by adoption, we would still want to thank God. If you had children by a surrogate woman or surrogate means, we want to thank God. If you had children by IVF, let's thank God that at least God gave you the money to do it. Children are a gift from God and a blessing to the family. I will see you same time, same day next week, and we will continue with our topic, the different kinds and the different ways of having children. God bless you, and I love you.
Powerline TV. Power to transform lives.